Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of In the Prog Seat. It's Tuesday night. We got, once again, the big crew here today for part two of our favorite 10 prog fusion, prog metal albums of all time, Desert Island Discs. You've already heard 6 through 10 last week. And if you haven't, go back and watch. Put this on pause, go back and watch that. Well, you may be in for a long ride if you do that. But if you have watched it last week, we're going to count down our final five. Mr. Chad Hutchinson couldn't make it tonight because he forgot he had tickets to a hockey game. So I will be reading his picks alongside mine as we go around. But let's introduce everybody who's on the panel tonight. We got, we'll start from the bottom, go up. We've got Eric Porter. We've got Stephen Reed. We've got, back from a 2-week hiatus, Anthony Ferraro, Chuck Alvarez, Louis Nasser, John Newdorf, Rick Labonte, Ken Golden, the Professor of Prague, and all the way from Chicago, part of our Chicago dynamic duo, Mr. George Lemie. So, let's get underway. So again, 1 through 5, we're going to start off with Eric. We're going to go all the way up. Whoa! What do you think? You're going to show that and not explain what you got there, Mr. Bass?
Charles,
Nice.
it's not Bass anymore. After Budweiser bought it, it's not Bass anymore.
Yeah.
Hey man, at least it's not ketchup.
I was just going to say that. At least it's not ketchup. So we're going to start with our number 5s, work our way to number 1, and we're going to have Eric kick us off with his number 5.
Okay, my number 5, this is another one that I would say probably 10 years ago would not have made my list. But I can't imagine being on a desert island and not having an opportunity to listen to Frank Zappa.
Yes.
So I am going to go with Hot Rats as my number 5.
Nice.
Great record.
The Gumbo Variations.
Let me guess, were you listening to that over the weekend while drinking hazy beer?
I had to play a few to make my final decisions, and yes,
There you go.
that did get some play.
I had
I
a
did
feeling.
the same thing when you shared on Facebook. I went,
Yeah, we all know each other on Facebook, so it's like when people start posting stuff over the weekend, especially when they've been drinking a little, like he's gonna pick that on Tuesday night. There you go.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, cool. Good choice there. All right, Mr. Reed, all the way from Scotland. How are you? You look a little tired, Stephen.
Oh, we've had an odd day here. Let's not get into that.
Okay, all right. All right.
And I'm missing a few props because
He's,
of
you
that.
know what, Pete? He's tired. He's tired of waiting when Porcupine Tree tickets are going on sale.
Wow.
Right,
Oh,
Stephen?
my number 5 is Porcupine Tree. There we go.
What a lead in. What a lead in.
I mean, we don't even work on this stuff. This just
No, we
happens. Oh
man.
dear, I'm tired of waiting. The tickets are going on sale. I'm tired of them announcing a Scottish date. Go on, you know you want to. So yes, anyway, my number 5 is Fear of a Blank Planet, the 2007 album from Porcupine Tree. Everyone knows how much I like this band. I broke my own rules because I promised myself that I wouldn't choose any album in my top 10 that was basically the same artist. Porcupine Tree and Steve Wilson are different enough that I can justify it. And this, to me, personally, I mean, I could have chosen another 3 or 4 from this catalogue because I like so many of the albums so much. But for me, this is the one with Wilson, Barbieri, Edwin, and Harrison at their best. And I can't be without it. The song Anaesthetize on its own is enough to have this album on the desert island. But yeah, I love it to bits. I mean, the concept is a bit, everyone's done the disconnect from society and all that kind of thing, but I can forgive that too. So yeah, really like this album. Fear of a Blank Planet is my number 5.
Nice.
All righty.
Have you watched that DVD where they played in Chicago for that tour?
No, that wasn't the tour. That wasn't the tour. It was for the one before that. Get your facts straight.
But they played Anesthetize in that show, and they played Fear of
No,
Blank.
they don't. They played it on Tilburg.
Well, they also
Tilburg.
played it there.
Luis. No, they didn't. Not
I
on
was
that
there.
DVD. That
I don't know.
DVD's from the park
I don't know about the
from
fucking-
2005
I don't
from
know the DVD.
Deadwing.
So my
But I
number
was
5 is
first
Porcupine Tree.
okay.
Yeah.
Anthony's making up for lost time.
I think
I
so.
tell you.
All right, so,
On fire.
so the yellow assassin, you can go next.
Oh, me?
No, you're the only one wearing yellow.
Am I
It's
up?
you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, number 5, I'm going to make this short and sweet. Everybody get their cup, their beverage.
Oh, shit.
Danger Money, 1979. Everybody knows the love I have for this album, the love I have for this band. Eddie, John, and Terry. Number 5, UK Danger Money. Woo!
Cool. All right. We had to get that one out of the way first. All right.
All right.
All right, Chuck.
Oh man. Well, my number 5 is from George's favorite asshat, Van de Graaff Generator. My number 5 is Van de Graaff Generator's God Bluff. Just 4 songs. The album is less than 39 minutes long and just plain fire there, man. A lot of fury on this album. Van de Graaff Generator. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. God Bluff.
Great choice. One of my favorites, by the way.
Chuck, have you heard any of the remixes?
Yes, sounds better. Well, the
You
album
like,
was,
you like the remixes better?
actually, the thing is, the album was mixed well in the beginning, but it just seems like it brought it out a bit more in the remixes. So this is done very well. I don't like the sound of the extra songs that they put on there. For that, they could have just put stuff off of his solo stuff at the same time, rather than to just put the lousy sounding live stuff from Italy on that one. So that's my number 5.
Are those like worth getting?
Well, it sounds much better. It's a slight improvement, but I wouldn't say that I wouldn't go too crazy over it.
Everybody seems to say that they sound better.
Well,
That
this
seems to
album
be the
didn't sound
consensus.
bad. This album didn't sound bad. It was a nice recording of it.
Just those Peter Hamill, all those Peter Hamill remasters were brutal. Previous.
Well, oh man, well, Porn Hearts doesn't sound so good. Porn Hearts is a crummy sounding album.
That's a great record.
But it's great. Yeah, it is great. Great record.
For some.
This is for some.
Yeah, no, right. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
All good.
All right.
My mother keeps trying to face.
Night is blue for night.
All right, so where are we at? Lewis, you're up.
All right, my number 5. I've told the story about this before, so I'm not going to tell it again. But this is a record that I absolutely love. I'm talking about May by Ekelin.
My favorite Ekelin album.
This is my favorite Ekelin record, and I
Same
really
here.
I listen to it all the time. So
Mhm.
yeah, this has to be it. Plus, I can't skip any songs. It's just one big song.
Right.
Beautiful song.
Right?
Cool. All right, John.
My number 5 is Porcupine Tree Light Bulb Sun. I think their 2000 release. It wasn't the first album I heard from them was Sky Moves Sideways. Kind of shortly after that was released, and I thought I hadn't really heard the band before, but I think I just bought it because of the cover. I was kind of and the album title, and then just having that little bit of Floydy vibe to it, which I appreciated. And then when Light Bulb Sun came out, I love this album. I mean, I could talk, about every track, but there's so many melodic gems on it. The title track, some good rock tunes like 4-chord. The lyrics are really good. I could have picked Fear of a Blank Planet like Steven did, or Stupid Dream. I mean, there's a few albums that I really dig. Well, every album almost. I mean, I almost love every album. But for me, it's Light Bulb Sun. And yeah, number 5.
Cool.
Love it.
Yeah, one of my favorites too.
How was your life today on that is just fantastic.
Yeah, I love that song. The rest will flow. That's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Rush on Ice. That's the atmosphere on that song. And I think he's an underrated guitar player, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if it's underrated, but no one really talks about, I mean, he's not, super technical and super fast, but he plays with a lot of emotion. So
Great feel, doesn't he?
yes, great feel. Totally.
I think
Looking forward to the new
I think
album.
Wilson's an underrated guitar player, especially on those first two Blackfield records.
Yeah, and I would say if you listen to like the Sky Moves Sideways, you really can tell what a great guitar player he is on those.
Yeah.
On those songs on there. Yeah, good stuff.
The early stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's spaced out.
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah.
the Sunday of Life. That's a
Yeah,
good album too. I mean,
yeah.
Ken, are you going to tell your story or what?
Wow.
No.
You're not going to tell the Porcupine Tree story?
Which one would you like me to tell?
The one that you were almost where you almost signed them. You got to tell Steven at least
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
well, I wouldn't say I almost signed them, but
Well, you were close.
when Richard Allen had before he started Delirium Records, and he contacted me. I used to buy from him. He used to buy from me. He had his fanzine, and he sent me 2 cassettes. He said, "I think you're really going to like this band," and they were the original Porcupine Tree demos, and they really fucked me up. I mean, they were great. And I contacted him. I said, I'd really be interested in signing this band. Can you give me more information? He said, no, I decided I'm going to start my own label and I'm going to put it out. They started Delirium Records, and then he put them out. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I was close, but,
You were in the discussion.
sorry.
yeah. So, and Richard had a nice run with Delirium. He put out some good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and he did pretty well for himself. He sold, he had the rights for all those albums and he sold them all. Did okay.
And you still have those demos?
I do. I'm not sure exactly where, but I have the cassettes. They go for a lot of money now.
I would imagine they do.
There's someplace I have like boxes of demos. I have like Anecdote and demos, the original Anecdote and demos, Porcupine Tree demos, things like all kinds of stuff. We did that band. I did that band El Trono de Recording. I have tracks from a second album that never got recorded. Yeah, there's all kinds of things floating around here.
Well, Ken, if you ever decide to part ways with those demos, I think I know someone here on the panel who might be interested.
Oh yeah. Okay, you'll tip me off later.
And was Light Bulbs on their Nearfest performance? Was that when they played Nearfest?
Who, Porcupine Tree?
Yeah,
They did play Nearfest.
2001, but I can't. I think,
2001.
Yeah.
right?
I saw them. They came over and they played at Progscape in Baltimore, and yeah, they were, and it was great.
Don't tell Chad.
Ooh.
Little
Bootlegger.
They were really
All
good
right.
at Nearfest, and they I remember that Nearfest sold out in like 2 seconds, and
Yeah.
I remember like that day there were all these like younger people in the audience, like really. Do you remember that, Ken? Really into Porcupine Tree, and then like after they got off the stage, like
It emptied out.
the place emptied out. We're like, well, where are we gonna go? It's like, well,
because they were Saturday, right?
Yeah,
they
it
were
was
Saturday night.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was Saturday. You know, but they were great.
And now chicks dance at a Steven Wilson concert.
Yes, they do.
Chicks, like one or two.
Chicks.
maybe.
I may have.
No, a ton. Believe me.
I might have recorded
That's
that.
the reason he
that
goes.
Baltimore show. I may have
Oh,
a
really?
recording of that. Maybe I have to check again.
Hey.
What's going on here between you two today?
Nothing. I'm just wondering what kind of shows he goes to, because when I go to see Steven Wilson, it's just dudes like me.
No, the last
only
Steven
time
Wilson
that-
show I saw, there
The
were a ton
only
of
time
chicks.
that-
They may have been there because I was there, but
Well, there you
Maybe.
have it.
Dude,
But
it's-
the only time I
There
saw
you go.
women at one of his shows, they went to see the Israeli guy from Blackfield.
Oh, yeah.
And those were beautiful Israeli women.
Well, when's the last time you saw Steven Wilson?
I saw him for the Han Kanadi race.
Well, actually, there was less chicks at that one. The one, what's the one after that, Steven?
Pariah, or whatever.
Yes, there were a lot of chicks
The
for that
bone.
gig.
those
Okay,
shows
so-
are sausage fest. I'm talking-
This is my experience.
Well,
But,
you know, I mean, and George will probably back me up here. I think if it's a fairly recent show and Anthony was there, it's the Ferraro effect. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the yellow sweatshirt.
Yes,
Yeah, this the
yes.
sexy yellow
They
sweatshirt.
come out for the Ferraro effect.
Yes.
See the superstar.
no,
in that
these
yellow.
actually, the last Stephen Wilson show I saw was at the Keswick, and there were actually surprisingly a ton of like teeny boppers there.
Wow. Okay.
I saw
Wow.
him at the I saw him at the Keswick. I hate that place. Anyway.
I do too. I hate the seats.
Anyway, where were we? Rick, number 5. You're on mute, buddy. There you go.
Okay, well, this gets a little easier the last 5, right? Not like when we came in here, picked the 10 album, and the guy that wasn't even there in the show came up with the idea. Had no idea how stressful it was to try to pick the best 10. So, but the last 5 is easy because it's the longest, the album that had the longest, and there wouldn't be a prog, collection that I have if it wasn't for the next 5 albums. And spoiler alert, they're all in the 70s when the prog was king, so that's no surprise. But, not like the last time I showed some stuff from the 80s and 90s and the 21st century, but this is all where it goes. Now, they can change the order maybe a little bit. Number 1, number 2 will be there, but this one coming at number 5 for me is A Trick of the Tail, Genesis. That really, like I said, I told you before, I came in the 80s listening to the Genesis without Steve Hackett. Didn't even know the history of Peter Gabriel, and I went backward. And this is still my favorite album when I discovered that one. And I like everything about it. It's ear candy. It's so fluid. It has those ebbs and flows that I like about Genesis. And I love the harmonies. The title track, it's just beautiful. So much of the Beatles are in there. And so, you know how I feel about this record. So that's number 5 for me.
Nice.
A good one. A really good one.
Great album.
All right. Ken.
My number 5. I've spoken about it in the past, so I'm not going to go on too long about it. But Rob Schnitt, Solar Music Live. So I wasn't really going to include live albums in my top 10. To me, that's its own thing. But this particular album is a little different because they took a piece of music that was originally on the Ballerman album, and it was a sidelong piece, and they expanded it, and they just blew the thing up, and it became its own thing. So, it's already established law of the land that this is the best live album ever recorded by anybody. It's just the classic space rock album. They were kind of nicknamed like the German Grateful Dead because their shows they were always like these marathon shows. Everybody in the band had kind of this weird name. It was Willie Wildschwein was one of the guitar players. You had Lupo was another guitar player. The keyboard players went by the name of Mist. The bass player was Popo, and Joachim Irag went by the name of Iraq. He was the drummer, and they were just phenomenal musicians that just kind of locked in. The rhythm section just created this fantastic groove that just carried through for everybody. Just sort of just take this. They got their space and they soloed, and it just has this amazing flow to it. And there's also, if you get to watch the video from Rock Palace, there's all kinds of crazy shit going on because there was always like a theatrical element. They had the roadies coming out, setting parts of the stage on fire and doing all kinds of crazy shit. And the one album to get actually is the version to get is the CD, because on the vinyl there's a Savage cut right in the middle, and on the CD it flows. There's no cut. And then also the 1998 CD, the reissue, had 13 minutes of music that was left off of the album because they didn't have the time, so it would have been a double. So anyway, this is my number 5, Grobschnitt Solar Music. If you don't have this in your collection, you're really missing out on magic. This is a special album.
I agree.
Love it.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's good. George.
My number 5 is a band I actually found on MySpace. You're not going to hear that the rest of the day. Thanks to Professor Golden, Aiken, Aquarius. my favorite prog band on the scene right now. So there's no way I'm going to an island or anywhere else without having something from them. I like the second one probably just as much, but this one obviously has more impact being first. So I say Aquarius.
Nice.
Hey,
Really good.
George, is my MySpace page still up there?
No idea.
It may still be up there.
Such a
Probably.
long time ago.
Yeah.
What was the name of that guy that welcomed you? There was this one guy that was always-
Tom.
Tom. I think his name was Tom. Wasn't it? I think it was Tom.
Tom.
That's right.
All right, let me read Chad's first before I go into mine. So Chad's number 5 from 2002 is also Ekel and Mai. And Chad wrote, one word, epic, 49 plus minutes of an epic journey of self-rediscovery. I always interpreted the album as a cross-country drive of someone trying to put their life back together after a relationship went horribly wrong. So many great themes, musical twists and turns, and fantastic vocals. Debuted live at Nearfest 2002. So that is Chad's choice for number 5. We got two Mai's at number 5. All right, so I kind of did this last week also, whereas I snuck in Pink Floyd Animals, even though it really didn't make my top 10. I've discovered today that there was an album that I completely forgot to include on my list. And it's kind of like an honorable mention, even though it's not technically my number 5, but I can't do this list without mentioning Crime of the Century by Supertramp. It's amazing. It's a perfect album. And it's prog. It's not prog, but who cares? I love it. So that's technically not my number 5, but I wanted to just kind of mention it there. My number 5 is actually Lark's Tongues and Aspic by King Crimson. You know, me picking my favorite King Crimson album is very hard because I have like such a close relationship with In the Court of the Crimson King, this album in Red, and it's kind of hard for me to separate the three. But I mean, this album has the title track in both parts, which are both amazing. It's got Exiles and Easy Money, The Talking Drum, and Book of Saturday. I mean, it's a perfect album for me, and it's pretty savage in spots, beautiful in others. It's everything I love about King Crimson, specifically this lineup. So that's going to be my number 5. Lark's Tongues in Aspic. Back to Eric.
Oh man, I'm so glad you didn't say Angel.
Oh, let's not go there.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry.
Has that caused problems, has it?
No. Just one sleepless night, but that's it.
I'm actually disappointed. I hoped for more.
Meadows.
Oh,
I have
my
to
number
admit, I've
4
never heard Angel. All I know of Angel is the Zappa references.
Yeah, Punky Meadows.
Yeah.
Funky Whips.
Well,
Lewis, those first 2 albums are really good.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm just admitting my ignorance. I've
No,
never
check them
heard
out. I think you would probably dig them.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah, especially that first album.
So my number 4, this band in its latest incarnation actually just released an album. But I am going to go with Songs from the Wood by Jethro Tull as my number 4. My absolute favorite Jethro Tull album. I'm trying to still get this on the box set because I was late to the party. But just absolute, this along with Heavy Horses, those 2 records together to me are perfection. I could have taken either one, but I'm going with Songs from the Wood.
Nice.
Nice.
I was finally able to, I haven't gotten it yet, it's on the way, but I was finally able to get the War Child box set. Thanks to one of our wonderful viewers, once again. So the only one left is for me to get is the one that you're talking is Songs from the Wood, which is really pricey.
Yep, it's pricey.
Yeah, but I'll keep looking. Steven, number 4.
So my number 4 is Hell of a Band by Angel. No. It's, no, it's obviously not. This is a band we've spoken about a lot in recent times, and they are a band who really have just become more and more prevalent in my listening in recent times. And I could have chosen 3 albums from the catalogue, 4 albums from the catalogue. I went back to 1975 and I've gone for Freehand from Gentle Giant. I mean, choosing Cool Shirt, choosing a Gentle Giant album is almost as difficult as choosing this list because the standard is just so high. But I just think that for me personally, the arrangements on this album are just off the charts. I just, the intricacy and the interplay, not just instrumentally, but vocally on this album are just so involved and so memorable that I can't go by it. I just can't go by it. And realistically, I could name the whole album and say, well, that's the strong song and that's the strong song, whether it's just the same, whether it's the title track, whether it's Talibont, whether it's On Reflection, Mobile. I haven't quite named the whole album, but you get the picture. I just love this to death. I really do. And the remix, the album itself is fantastic, but the remix is just ridiculous. So good and reveals new things that made a fantastic album even better. So my number 4 is Freehand by Gentle Giant.
Yeah. That's generally the album I recommend to people who have never listened to them before as a first step, because I think it's slightly accessible sounding, but it's just as challenging as anything else they've ever done. And it's pretty perfect from song to song to song. Gives you like a little bit of everything that they do.
Yeah, they are more song-based than I think initial listens would ever kind of let you imagine that they can be. Right across the catalogue they are, but Freehand is the one that maybe you'd go as far as say it almost has hooks.
It does, yeah, I would say it does. Yeah, sure.
It's that kind of album that you walk away from singing bits of it and there's snatches of it that just live with you for days. So, as I say, I mean, easily could have chosen another 2 or 3 albums from the catalogue, but that is the one that I've plumbed for.
I mean, let's be honest. How many times have you been walking around your house or somewhere and all of a sudden you find yourself going, dun, 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 dun. It happens to me all the time. It's like, how can you not,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Great tune.
I don't think you should say almost hooks. They're definitely hooks.
Yeah,
They're
that's
not dumb
fair.
hooks.
Yeah, that's true.
They're really good hooks. Right?
Really good hooks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. The Man in Yellow. Back to you, Anthony.
Number 4 goes back to, let's see here. Could it be this?
Oh.
Or could it be this? 1975, Steve Hackett's first solo outing while the band was on so-called hiatus. Voyage of the Acolyte, my all-time favorite Steve Hackett record, top 4 all time. Has guest stars with Phil and Mike and Sally Oldfield, Mike Oldfield's sister. Just pure magic. So Steve Hackett, Voyage of the Acolyte, 1975 on Charisma Records.
Nice.
And oh, so close, but yet so far.
Very far.
Not that close.
If you bring it any closer, we're gonna get an X rating.
Oh man.
All right, Chuck.
Oh man. My number 4 is for from a great band, great jazz fusion band, him of the 7th Galaxy, Return to Forever. This is my all-time favorite Chick Corea album. And I'm a big jazz fan. I have all this stuff prior to this and a lot of stuff afterwards. But this is the album of all the albums from his electric period that I love the most. I just don't think that Billy Connors fit this band like a glove. You know, he was a bit more organic and a bit more tougher sounding, not as organic or like chiseled, like listening to Al Di Meola, who I love very much. But I just think that this album, song per song, man, just killer. You know, After the Cosmic Rain, the title track, Captain Senor Mouse, the theme to the Mothership, Space Circus Parts 1 and 2, and The Game Maker, killer. Return to Forever, featuring Chick Corea, him of the 7th Galaxy. That's my number 4.
Raw and brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis.
All right, so my number 4 is again another record that for me is undeniable. It's not a 70s classic, but I'm gonna pick Discipline Unfolded Like Staircase.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love this record.
Yep.
And yeah, if I'm gonna be in prison somewhere or in an island, I need this. First of all, if I'm in prison, this will repel the other prisoners. And then secondly, it's going to make me very happy. So
It's
Much
awesome.
love to Matthew and the other Matthew and everybody in the band.
Come on, get down.
Isn't it fun how everyone else here is picturing himself with these discs on a desert island, you know, sun and
Yeah.
sand and hopefully something idyllic. Lewis is in jail.
Well, see, here's why. In a desert island, there's no electricity. So what the fuck do I do with these?
We'll give you a lifetime supply of batteries.
I'm not gonna build a laser out of nothing. I'm so basically stuck. So you know. Yeah.
We just had a supernova here for a second.
Yeah.
What's going on over there, Ed?
He opened up the hoodie and he released some demons.
I got cats fighting over here. We have this little house with catnip in it, and the one cat's in it, the other one's trying to get him to come out. They're like kids.
Yes, they are.
And Lewis, I'm assuming the Unfolded Like Staircase version is the latest one, right?
This is the latest one, which has the new remix by Terry Brown of Rush fame, and this is the one to get, in my opinion. Absolutely. Like if you're not familiar with the record, just immediately buy it. If you're familiar with the record, still buy it, because this is a different experience altogether, and it's great. It really is great. Lots of there were lots of tracks that were just down to zero. There's a whole lines and arrangements that were just missing from the one we all heard back in the 90s. So yeah, this has been Unfolded Like Staircase.
Cool. All right, John.
Hey, my number 4 pick is Kansas Point of No Return from 1977. And I could have just as easily gone with Left Overture, I think, on this one, but I decided to go with this mainly because I love the last track, Hopelessly Human. I think it's my favorite Kansas song. So I went with Point of No Return. I mean, the title track is so melodic, and you got the band really tight and technical, and Paradox, the Spider. Then you have, I mean, I'm a science geek, so I appreciated Portrait of You, Einstein. Some good rock with Lightning's Hand. I mean, everyone knows Dust in the Wind, and some people are probably getting really, really tired of that one, but I still think it's it's a beautiful song, and I've heard it a million. But yeah, it's a great album. It's my number 4.
Great.
Hopelessly Human.
I agree.
Yeah, that's. And I mean, I could have. Their whole run of 70s. I mean, Mask is. I mean, there's lots of good albums. But
Great.
Anthony, was that your Robbie Steinhardt impersonation?
and the violin, I mean, beautiful.
Man, he slays on that track.
Yeah, and it's really amazing musicianship.
You talk about a great run of albums. I mean, Kansas.
Yeah,
up there with anybody from that first album up to Monolith, I think. I even like Audio Visions too, but I think first to Monolith is like
they're great albums.
Yeah.
Luis, is that your cat Elias?
Oh, I don't have a cat called Elias. This is Pangerbomb. I wouldn't even name a cockroach Elias.
Oh man. Oh man.
Anthony's been saving all this up for a week. See?
Oh man.
You have to save it for longer.
I miss you guys.
Anthony's let out of the cage.
Oh man.
All right, Rick, back to you.
Okay, well,
Get that new background ready.
yes, I do. And this album, it definitely, just 10 years ago, I probably would have said something like, Wish You Were Here, Dark Side of the Moon. But when I go to David Gilmour concert, Roger Waters, to see their show, I realize how excited I get when I hear anything from this album, Animal. I just realized, but I used to always say, there, wish you hear the finest, perfect album, Dark Side of the Moon. But I guess because I'm not saying I'm burnt out because I still listen to those songs and those albums still, but I really appreciate the Animals a lot, and it grew a lot, even though it's really 5 tracks but 4 songs, right? One part one, part two, but it's a lot, and I just love the way the music goes from start to finish. Pig, 3 different ones, one of my favorite, and when he played that last tour, Us and Them tour, I got really excited. I realized how much this album really meant a lot to me, and so I've seen him play every tune, whether it's David or Roger Waters. I've seen him do Sheep. I've seen him do, most of this between the two guys. Of course, never will see Pink Floyd perform this. But anyway, it's a great concept album. Just like a lot of my songs of the 10 is some concept or some theater package or whatever. This was one of those albums where they were all on the same page. They all made an effort. I think it's probably the last real band album, right? With all of them having more input on the final product. I'm sure Roger Waters is still the brain trust behind a lot of this when it came to doing the artwork and finding all these different things. But ultimately, I hear the whole band, right? You hear everybody really shining through this record, just like they did with the album before that, Wish You Were Here. So The Animals is my pick for number 4.
Killer, killer, killer.
Nice.
Ken.
Choice. Another one I've spoken about in the past, and for me, this is one of the most important prog albums of the 70s. Banco di Terra.
Yes.
So they were, Banco they had been putting out a great catalog, and then they had done Come in Ultima Cena. They did the Garofano Rosso soundtrack, and then they took a left turn and they did an instrumental album, which was kind of peculiar because they had one of the great vocalists in rock, and Francesco Di Giacomo. He's not on the album. I think his involvement was he came up with the song titles. It's just the perfect melding of orchestra and rock band. When I heard this, when it came out in 1978, it just blew me away because it has a maturity about it that a seriousness that you just didn't hear from bands at the time. It's just this, perfect marriage of orchestra and rock band. It just took the band, I think, to, the top. There was not a lot going on in 78, really. All the big bands were kind of in a lull, and they added Alan King on sax and flute, and they just sort of became an orchestra in and of themselves. But they recorded with an orchestra whose name is too long for me to pronounce. And like where the band ends and the orchestra begins, it's kind of questionable. It's just an amazing album. And while I say that I'll have 100 albums in my top 10, this one will always be there.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just incredible album. If you have an aversion to listening to Italian vocals, you don't have to worry. It's all instrumental, and it's just, man, just an incredible album.
Great musicianship, man.
Still moves me. I mean, I listened to it again recently. Just amazing.
I'm brain farting on the name of the left hand of the devil, the keyboardist. But that guy,
They were the Nocenzi brothers, Vittorio and
that
Gianni.
guy is off the charts, also with the compositions and everything.
Yeah, Gianni wrote most of the album. Vittorio wrote a lot. Rodolfo Maltese wrote one piece, and Anthony's playing air drums, I think. It's just one of those albums, man. You got to get out of your comfort zone, and you got to pick this up. Masterpiece.
Yep.
Great.
Much agreed. Yep.
All right, George, back to you.
Number 4 is Garage Mahal. Whoop.
Wow.
A melody of Headhunters funk with Mahavishnu Indian style fusion. For a modern fusion band, it's a real organic sound, old school quartet. a bunch of guys do not mess around. A couple of guys from this area, including current Night Ranger keyboardist Eric Levy, really great mood player.
Oh,
Yeah, slumming on that gig. Yeah, just if you haven't heard it, like most people probably haven't,
I've
absolutely
heard it.
get it.
Damn good, man. Nice pick, man.
Yeah, they have a bunch of really strong albums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good band. All right.
not to veer off the topic, but speaking of Night Ranger, Pete, have you heard the new collaboration with Brad Gillis and Billy Sheehan?
No.
Skills.
They have an album coming out on Frontier Records. It's kind of weird.
Oh, really?
The lead singer does not. I mean, maybe vocally he fits the band, but the look he's got like these hoop ears and everything. It's weird.
Just
You have to
close
check
your
it
eyes.
out. They have video on YouTube.
Was that
Good.
Lewis?
I said you can just close your eyes and just listen to it. It works.
Yeah, I'll check it
Pretty
out.
good.
I mean, they've got so many projects. There's
Yeah, of course.
There's another one coming out with Joel Hoekstra and Michael Sweet and Nathan James from Inglorious and Tommy Aldridge and
But that Brad Gillis record has got some dynamite guitar tones.
I'm sure that's
But he
yeah,
can
Yeah,
do it,
the
man.
guitar's
In the
really
video, he
good.
played that same old red guitar he's had his whole life,
yeah.
and now it's all battered down. He's still, it's great. It's really, really good.
And you said Billy Sheehan on bass?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like a match made in heaven. Those two guys. Yeah,
So yeah.
That guy's
I'll check it
amazing.
out. I'll check it out. All right, Chad's pick for number 4 from 1994 is Marillion Brave.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Chad says its favorite Marillion album sounds amazing, sullen and sad to amazingly emotional. Liner notes said, listen loud and in the dark. So that was my first experience. First dance with my wife at our wedding was to Mate Again. That's cool.
Oh,
That's cool. Yeah, really good album. Really good album.
A haunting
One
album.
of my favorites with Steve Hogarth on vocals.
I was at Chad's wedding. I don't remember that,
No?
Wow.
but you know,
Did you have a
Were you
few
out
too
back?
many to drink, Ken?
actually, I was the designated driver that night. So
Wow.
yeah,
Gotcha. All right, my number 4, much like Steven, I had a hard time picking my number 4 because this band has so many albums that I really love a lot, and my favorite album by them changes all the time. So I knew number 4 was going to be Gentle Giant. I was just like, is it Three Friends? Is it In a Glass House? Is it Freehand? Or is it Octopus? And today I went with Octopus because I was like, I just couldn't make up my mind. But there are days where it's Three Friends. That, like I said, all the other ones that I mentioned, because so many of their albums are just equally fantastic. But the advent of Panurge and Knots, A Cry for Everyone, River. I mean, every song on here is just absolutely amazing. The artwork is great. Production is really good. The playing is impeccable. I love this band to death. So they've got to be in my top 5. So Octopus for today is my Gentle Giant selection. And back
Nice.
to Eric for number 3.
So my number 3, a few people had picked live albums. And I'm thinking if I'm on a desert island, it's kind of cool to get that energy from a live album. And I do have an alternate in case it is called cheating, but I'm going with Gentle Giant as well, Playing the Fool. This is an amazing record. They are absolutely fantastic live. And if you listen to any studio record and you don't think they can pull it off, listen to that.
Yep.
They can do no wrong, but live is a whole other animal, and they are just unbelievable live. So that would be my only regret. Too young to see them.
Yep. Same.
Here.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I've got a couple videos, got some boots, and they are just fantastic live. So
I saw him.
lucky
Jealous.
you, Ken.
Because you're
Where?
old.
At what time?
Eric, I'm so proud of you, man. You're flexing there with the vinyl.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
What tour did you see them on, Ken?
Hmm?
What tour did you see them on?
I saw him Missing Piece Tour, 77, with Dr. Feelgood
Oh.
opening up. I think Dr. Feelgood got booed off at every show of that tour. They made it through about 10, 15 minutes, and then they got
Wow.
pelted.
Mm.
Yeah, they were horrible. But yeah, that was the only time I saw Gentle Giant. They were great.
I can imagine. Very cool.
Fantastic.
Hey, you guys you all fucked up, man. You're born too late.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
There's
Hold
what?
it against your parents.
Parents.
There's
Mu-
four
musically, I
1970
agree.
years here.
All right, Stephen, number 3.
Well, on that theme, then I was 1 when this album came out. So my number 3, I don't have props for a couple because vinyl is out of bounds in the house at the moment. I'll just say 2 words which are self and isolating, and let's move on. So my number 3 comes from 1974. Okay, and it is kind of one of the outliers in the catalogue. My number 3 is Relay by Yes. Now, I will happily take the argument that it's not the most important album. And I'll even happily take the argument that for most people, it's probably not the best album. But it is the album that I go back to most often. And
There it is.
as I've shown on a lot of shows, I'm a big Rick Wakeman fan, both in the band and, although there's, for want of a better term of phrase, there's a lot of dross in the solo catalogue. There's a lot of great stuff in his solo catalogue too. However, his absence on this album is one of the reasons that I really like it so much, because as we've all said, I think many times, what Patrick Moraz does here is just perfect for what the band were at this point. It's something completely different. It adds new textures completely to what's going on. And it introduces, I just think, a whole feel and flow that couldn't have happened any other way. It couldn't have happened with any other lineup out of the many that this band have had than what happened here. And I mean, Gates of Delirium is probably my favourite piece of music by the band. I think it's just ridiculously good. It's impressive when you first hear it, but the more you get to know it, the more I think it's exciting and involving it becomes. But the whole thing's just great. I mean, side 2 is equally good as well. I mean, it's easy to dismiss, To Be Over. Sound Chaser's outstandingly good. But same again, once you kind of get past the kind of more flashy parts of the album, you realise that the whole thing is just a fantastic beast. So yeah, my number 3 is Relay by Yes.
Nice.
Can't argue that at all.
And think of how many people have brought that album up. And when you take somebody like Wakeman out, who's so great, and Mraz comes right in, and there's so many people who love that record, so many Yes fans. I mean,
A lot of jazz fans love that album.
it's hard to replace a member like that and have it go over that well and be that well accepted.
But I said last week, that was my number 6 last week. And he's the X factor. Mraz is the X factor.
Yes.
He worked with a different tonal palette than Wakeman. And I think he has maybe a more angular style to his playing, you know.
Well, he's a producer later on, right? So he was able to adapt to any band or any time period. I think he was always thinking of what the market need or what they were trying to do. I think he's a producer at heart. So even though he wasn't in the producer's share during that period, but he was probably easy to bring out and work with people, because you have to have those skills to be a producer. To bring the best out of other musicians, you got to know to gel with them and see where they're going and try to enhance their ideas. I think he was a good teammate to have, like a bandmate right off the start, even though it was short-lasted.
Yeah, I think in terms of style, the two of them have a really different energy.
Yeah.
The music breathes completely differently with Moraz in the band from what it does with Wakeman in the band or any other keyboard player in the band. It just has it's almost like a slightly different language that they talk on Relay. You instantly know it's Yes.
There's more fusion to it. It has a fusion live. Yeah.
You instantly know it's Yes, but you still kind of go, who is that? Do you know? And I've always loved that about that album as well.
Yep. Great stuff.
Wakeman comes from more of a classical background.
Well, Moraz comes from like
you
an
don't hear that.
avant-garde
You don't really-
jazz.
yeah, you don't really hear that in Moraz's playing.
No, not at all.
Good, cool. Very good record.
Well said.
Anthony.
Number 3, join the chorus if you can. It'll make of you an honest man. Songs from the Wood, 1977. My all-time favorite Tall record. It's just pure magic. Songs from the Wood, what a kickoff tune, The Whistler, Hunting Girl, Cup of Wonder, Jack in the Green, as I go on. Third favorite record of all time, 1977, Ian and the Boys, Songs from the Wood.
Nice box set you got there.
Guard it with your
It's
life.
pretty sexy.
Yeah.
He's eyeing that.
Yeah.
I bought that from the Prog Father.
Uh-huh. You were the only smart one on this call who bought it when it came out, right? Now
Right.
we're all like trying to pay catch up.
Well, when I saw that there was going to be a DVD of the concert, I was like, I wanted to have my buddy nerds come over and have a viewing show, but they laughed at me.
Wow.
Not their idea of fun Friday night, huh?
No, not really.
Oh well.
They're missing out.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they really are.
Yep. All right, Chuck, back to you.
Da-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na. My number 3 is King Crimson's Lark's Tongue and Aspic. I debated over these last 3 albums that I have here, and this could have easily been my number 1. You know, it could have been but the 2 albums that I'm going to pick, after this, and so this is slightly more enduring than this album, but this is by far my favorite King Crimson album. The album that I go to all the time, the album that will never tire in my eyes, man. You have the band, at their peak, with all 5 members, Jamie Muir, David Cross, Robert Fripp, John Wetton, and Bill Bruford, man, right here, man. Killer album. Lark's Tongue and Aspic, King Crimson is my number 3.
And to me, those songs that they played live from that album became even more monstrous live.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great band, man.
Yeah.
Great album.
Yep, I agree. Lewis, back to you.
Well, for my number 3, I have to go with a band that has really been super integrated into my musical DNA. And in particular, I have to pick this album because this was the first one I ever heard by them, back when I couldn't afford records, and I used to buy these Memorex cassettes outside the subway in Mexico City. And this is Gentle Giant in a Glass House. Absolutely a masterpiece.
That's my favorite.
Every single second here is just glorious. And also just, it's one of those records that through the years, it just gets better somehow. I never get burnt out with it.
Love
So,
And boy, does it sound good on the original vinyl.
I'll take your word for it, but
Oh, it sounds amazing.
I just love these songs, and they're just in my head at all times. So I can't pick a favorite, but the record is just beautiful.
Mhm.
I do love the sound of the breaking glass. Has a very musical quality.
Mhm.
It's just a beautiful thing. So I love that record. Everything about it.
That album really rocks, but it's also really
It really
quirky
does.
too. It's like it's the perfect combination of like hard rock and Gentle Giant and ultra quirky Gentle Giant. Love it, and good melodies on there.
The production is fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything about it. It's just and the look of it. The whole vibe of this thing is just so dark and awesome. I just love it. I love it, love it, love it. There's not a wasted second.
I think it gets overlooked a little bit because it didn't get a US release.
Mm-mm.
So it was
And
just,
that-
it was just an import. And, when people were picking it up as a CD, it was like, what is this?
Experience, Runaway. It's got some classic songs on it.
Yeah, it's
Runaway,
It's right up
so
there.
good.
Plain Lullaby. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just everything about it, right? There's stuff. There isn't a dull moment here,
Nope. Mhm.
and
Even
it
the
all
packaging.
flows into the next thing expertly.
And it's
Even
just
the
a
packaging
shame
is
that,
cool.
like we mentioned last week when I picked that album, that like the band has so much disdain for that album, and it puzzles me because this album to me is timeless. They've made some great albums before and afterwards, but that album right there is just timeless, and I'm kind of saddened that they don't think too highly of it, man.
Well, I was able to tell Gary Green he was wrong,
God,
I mean-
I'm glad you told him. I'm glad you told him that.
but yeah, it's a great record. They should be very proud of it.
Yeah, love it. All right, John, back to you.
Hey, I'm changing up my pick for number 3.
Oh, last minute swap. Here we go.
You gave me the idea. I have, even though it's probably not a prog album, I know this is a prog round table, but I'm gonna go with Supertramp Creme of the Century. And there's certainly proggy elements to it. The recording
title track.
quality, yep, the title track. I love that stuff. Actually, every song on this album I love.
Timeless.
Fantastic.
It's such a great piece of music. So it's not, the most progressive album, and the recording quality is amazing on this album. I mean, I think 1974 this was made,
74.
or
Yes,
74. And it's just superlative, and it was one of my kind of gateways into probably heard it a couple of years later, and that really formed my musical what I was starting to do at the time, and it just formed my whole taste. So that was Creme of the Century, Supertramp.
Yeah, I'd say it's as much.
I just have to fit this in.
Yeah, it's great. To me, it's their Dark Side of the Moon. It's just essential.
And the reason why I didn't fit it in is because it's not really a prog album, and so
But it has art like
I was trying to all week.
Close enough. Yeah, I think it's close enough.
Yeah, don't
Mark,
get
what?
what is Prague, please.
Yeah.
If you want to go
I
there,
don't know.
If you can't get the, let's say, if you can't get the speaker's corner pressing of it.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
that's the one time. Was that Ken Scott produced that, I think?
Ken Scott.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So
There's a lot of great bands that fit in that category, right? Because Alan Parsons, they're
Yes.
on a tightrope of proggy, but they're being accessible and writing songs, right? And so they that's what's so great about the 70s. It allowed people to do that. And even when bands are not normally going to proggy element, like Led Zeppelin or even Uriah Heep, when they started out, they tap danced on that stuff a little bit because prog was so big. So Supertramp, it's ended up being transparent that it comes out of the songwriting as a whole. And it does it because it's art rock and it does it so theatrical. It gets labeled as progressive rock because it's so out of the box of thinking. It's not your standard rock and roll. It wasn't predictable, and it was so artsy that they definitely deserve to be in that group. But that's where the fine line is that some people that don't want to put them in that camp because they were so accessible and everybody know it. They think prog rock, you got to be underground to be considered prog rock. Not necessary. They did it creatively.
Well, another band that fits that mode is 10cc.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
The original soundtrack.
love
I
that
was-
guy.
Sheet music.
I was going to say Godly and Creme, actually.
Exactly.
So-
Mhm.
Early Argent, early Sticks. I mean, sure.
Mhm.
Rick
Crack the
mentioned
Sky.
Alan Parsons project, Tales of Mystery and Imagination.
great record.
I love that
It's a
record.
great record. Is it a prog album? I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I could tell you,
Oh,
prog
good.
fans love that album.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. Mhm.
That's
love it.
right.
My Robot would be mine for.
My Robot,
My
another great
Robot's
album.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
My favorite is Tales of Mystery and Imagination.
Yeah.
Lovely. Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, you could call it whatever you want, but I know prog fans love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That was my first CD I ever bought.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, nice. Mhm.
Cool.
All right, Rick.
Okay, so the next three choices is going to be the bands that I've seen the most of all the progressive rock, and they earned that title. There's no question about it. This is one of my favorite of the catalog of this next band. We know it; it's been mentioned already. It's no mystery, but Kansas Left Overture. It's right from, I know a lot of people love the first song, right? Carry Away Onward Son. And I feel every song is just as strong as that one, even though I love it and I'm not tired of it. But The Wall, What's on My Mind. And then you get to the real proggy measures like Miracle Out of Nowhere or the epic track at the end. I mean, there's so much to be said. But this had to be in my top 5 for sure. Because this was a game changer for me. Not only did I appreciate the artwork, all the work that individual members contribute to this, and I love it when an album has the epic at the end, like a grand finale, and it does that. But I feel like it's a little mini concert, mini theater right from the beginning to end. You can't skip a song. I can't anyway, because I feel like I missed the whole thing. Even though it's not a real concept album, but to me, the running order is so perfect that I would hate to interrupt that flow. You know, I would have to wait till the album finished before changing it. So that's the way it is for me. And this band I've seen so many times with different lineup, and it's always special when you hear any track done live from this album.
I love that record. The only thing that always I never understood is the title. It's almost like they're saying it's like leftover music. We're not taking ourselves too seriously, but that's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And they're just trying. They come up with a pun and whatever, but really, I mean, that's a very cerebral album, right?
Very much. Matter of fact, so is Point of No Return as well.
Oh yeah.
But that's also another pun, right?
Yes.
So there's that kind of a thing where they're kind of disowning the fact that they're really going for it all out in a way. But I love it. Yeah.
And I think the album cover speaks Prague too. I think that it let you know what you're going into. You're going into some fantasy world or an imagination for sure. Put on your seatbelt. You're going for a ride.
Yeah. All right, Ken, back to you.
All right, my last three picks are going to be kind of conventional. So, because we're talking now, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is the top three desert island albums. So these are going to be kind of predictable. My number three, and the second time they appear on my top 10 list, Genesis, The Lamb. So, we talked about it recently, so I'm not going to go on and on. For me, I was a little conflicted. It was between that and Selling England. And a few weeks ago, I decided that The Lamb was my favorite album. The group was in disarray at the time because Peter Gabriel was working with William Friedkin on a movie project, and the band was working on the album kind of without him, and he was off in the other room writing the lyrics. And somehow this outlier of an album, their weird album, it just came together, and it works. The high parts, for me, they're they're like the height for the band. And this was Genesis really pushing the envelope. There's some filler, yeah. There's some filler on the album, I think, but it was necessary to kind of move the story along. I wasn't really so fond of it as the closer. It was a little bit of a letdown for me. But all in all, man, this is the album that when I want to listen to Genesis, I really get lost in. And I put it on, and yeah. And I'll mention again, for any vinyl guys, and I know there are some guys that are interested in this, the Classic Records pressing is the one to have. I've tried the Japanese, the German, the US, the UK. This is the one. And it just adds another dimension. You hear things in this that you just won't hear on the CD or any of the other pressings. That's my number three, guys.
Cool. All right.
Big pick.
George's number three is Crime of the Century by Supertramp.
Wow.
King
Corn Hearts.
Crimson, the Court of the Crimson King.
Yeah, that's
Corn Hearts.
Ken said this
It's
is
like, no.
this is where it gets a little predictable. Yes, close to the edge.
Oh, nice.
Not going to be able to say anything that everybody on the call doesn't know about it. Got it, first heard it in the mid 80s. My buddies, the Ferguson brothers, they showed it to me. Cover does not inspire anything. Still to this day, I don't get this cover, but
Nope.
who cares? The music was perfect. Never get sick of it, so I say Close to the Edge.
Great choice. More on that later.
Fantastic.
All right, let me read Chad's number three, which is from 1975, Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. Chad says, need some classic David Gilmour guitar on the island, and this is his peak. Shine On, You Crazy Diamond is emotional and beautiful, super solid album from start to finish. And my number three. So I had to have this band in my top five. Generally speaking, when I rank the catalog of this band, this album isn't always my number one. It's usually in my top three. But the reason I'm going to put this album, because this is a true prog album from them, whereas the other album that I have been in recent times ranking as my number one isn't really a prog album from them. And you'll know what I'm talking about in a second. But Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull. Normally, in recent years, I've been calling Benefit my favorite album by Tull. It's pretty close between that, this, Aqualung, and Minstrel in the Gallery are generally my favorites right at the top. But Benefit is not really much of a prog album, but this absolutely is. But yeah, it's basically one long song, 43, 44 minutes long. Killer everything on here. Martin Barr's guitar work, John Evans' piano, electric piano and organ, and Ian Anderson is just brilliant on here. It's just a great story told about Mr. Gerald Bostock. So everybody knows it. That's my number 3. Thick as a Brick.
That was my number 10. Right on.
How is
Yeah.
how is Thick as a Brick 2?
It's not bad. I like it. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not quite that, obviously, but it's not bad.
I do too.
I was afraid to buy it. I didn't want to be disappointed. I didn't.
Nah, I mean, as long as you know it's no way is it going to be that, it's pretty good. It's pretty
It's a
good.
really
It's
nice
not as
melody.
bad as Mind Crime 2.
It's way better than Mind Crime 2. Yeah.
It's better than the idea
But
suggested.
It suffers from an excess of accordion playing, in my personal
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's the only thing I will say. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I saw them do it live too. It was fun.
I'll check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, it's worth getting. It's worth getting. All right, Eric, back to you. Number 2.
Well, I'm bummed that Chad's not here tonight because I have to thank Chad because the last band I spoke about, Gentle Giant, I said I never got to see. And Chad and his partner, Rob, are the reason I got to see this band. And this is a disc that would never leave my top 10, no matter what would change. Happy the Man, Crafty Hands. And they brought them together, I believe it was 2000, the second Near Fest. Got to see them live. You know, I'm a fanboy, so it wasn't going to disappoint. I think Kit Watkins is probably the most underrated keyboard player there is. Nobody talks about him. He's got the best feel on the Moog of anyone I know or have heard. I know they're not that well known of a band, but they can do everything. That opening service with a smile will kick you in the teeth. And then they can be mellow and spacey, but they are an absolutely fabulous band. And that is my number 2, Crafty Hands.
Great choice.
Gentle Giant meets Camel. That's the way I always look at them. Just a fantastic band, man. That's a great album too. Mhm.
Yeah, their first two are so good.
When Rosenthal played with them at Nearfest, he was fantastic.
He's unbelievable too. Absolutely.
He covered Kit's parts perfectly.
Yep.
Really
Great
talented
player.
Yep.
I think
Billy
that was a
Joel.
mistake. That was a mistake for Kit not to participate.
I
He
don't
doesn't
know why
like
he
to tour.
didn't.
He doesn't like touring. Mhm.
It was like a one-off, you know.
Yeah, so I think they only did a couple shows.
Yeah, they did a few more.
He
but
doesn't live
not
that
many.
far from Bethlehem anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not really a tour, is my point.
I didn't get that, but Rosenthal filled in, and Rosenthal was a fan, so yeah,
He did it justice.
Yeah,
He was great.
he was.
Yeah.
Is that Rosenthal from Eloy, Ken?
No,
No,
no.
Rainbow.
David Rosenthal from Rainbow.
Yeah.
He's Billy Joel's
Oh, okay.
That was
main
Billy
guy
Joel,
now.
Yeah. It's on the new Steve Vai record too.
Nice guy.
Oh, okay.
Nice guy.
Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Stephen. Number 2.
Well, my number 2, I think people are probably waiting to see exactly where they would fall in the top 10 because they were always going to be there somewhere. So the question was, which Marillion album would I choose?
Yep.
Because it was a given that they were going to fall somewhere in the list, and people are probably surprised that they're not number 1, but there's a good reason for that. And when it boiled down to it, as I said last week, I viewed this as the Desert Island thing. So these are the 10 albums that I'm going to be left with forevermore. And I genuinely can't even contemplate the idea of not listening to the voice of Steve Hogarth ever again. So I've gone with Brave, which I think is his crowning achievement with the band. Yes, I'm a massive Fish fan, not the PH one for anyone who watched the homework assignment the other day. But for all that I adore his work, especially with Marillion, I love this album so much that I couldn't be without it. I couldn't be without Brave. It's the most atmospheric thing that I've chosen in the top 10. It is a solitary, singular experience. It doesn't compromise, other than Made Again, funnily enough, sorry, Chad, which was added on kind of as an afterthought. I kind of wish they hadn't. Love the song, but it doesn't need
I get
that.
really-
Oh, actually, hey, at the end of it. But yeah, I just adore the album. I just think it's perfect. Do you know? And I could not be without it. I really couldn't. So my number 2 is Brave by Marillion.
Cool.
I like it.
All right.
That's the only Hogarth period album I like. I like Brave a lot.
Yeah, it's a good
Bit
read.
of Sunlight's really good too, I think. That's a
That's
really
my
good
favorite from them.
I think
Steven, you gotta have a happy one to follow that up though, if you're on an island by yourself.
Brave was like
Yeah.
a very
That's a
Brave
tough
was,
one.
It's a very
That's-
depressing
yes.
album. Mhm.
Brave is a very
that's-
melancholy album.
Very.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
perfect for jail. I'm telling you. You gotta go with it.
That is true.
I think as well that the most recent couple of H era albums are worth a reappraisal. I think they've hit some real form again in recent times.
We just got the new album in today. I don't know what it's about yet.
Oh, cool. I got to order that. All right.
Yeah.
Set one aside for me, Ken. I'll put it in order for it tonight.
I've
Me too.
pre-ordered
Yeah,
it.
I'll be the first to admit, and I've gone on record saying this, that I have been pretty sour on Marillion's output for a long time, but I have, thanks to Steven, I have revisited like the last couple albums, and yeah, they're pretty damn good. I
Fear
think.
is good, man.
Yeah.
Fear is damn good, man.
I like
People-
Fear a lot. Yep.
And
Mhm.
people
But I-
will like the new one as well.
I saw them live and that made a difference with Fear. I think
Mhm.
after I saw them, because I saw them at Keswick for the Fear tour and it got me listening differently. So for whatever reason, it didn't take before the show, but that really helped.
I advise that to anyone that is willing enough to go and experience them live. I think the Hogarth era and him especially just make much more sense in person. He lives and breathes every single note. It's really quite an experience if you catch him on a great night. You never
He's
really has a bad
fantastic.
night, catch him on a great night. And it's quite emotional, I think, personally.
Oh, yeah.
Have any of you guys ever gone to the conventions? Like those weekend long conventions?
No, I've always wanted to, but I've never done it.
I've only seen them once live ever, and that was for the Fear tour also. I drove all the way out to St. Charles to see them,
I only saw them with Fish.
and which was, I just had to see them once, and I thought, this is it. I had a chance to see them for the Marbles tour, but I hadn't heard the record, and I had really disliked the one before it, the Arachnophobia or whatever. I thought that was not for me. And the place where they played was really close to my house. I could have literally walked, and I didn't go. And I've been kicking myself in the ass ever since for that.
Marbles.
So I atoned the karmic wheel by driving my ass all the way to St. Charles to that arcade theater that I dislike to see them there, and it was a fantastic show. You know, so
Yeah, one of the bands I've seen most out of all the bands in the world.
But they don't come here much. You know, they don't come here much.
That's enough. They don't come here ever.
They've
No, so it's hard to see
They've
them.
done a little bit more in recent times, but I think it is sparing because it's so expensive for a band that doesn't have a huge audience there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Weren't they the first band to basically to do crowdfunding?
Yep.
for this tour?
They pioneered it.
Yeah, realistically,
They
Marillion.com
pioneered
was
it.
called that as the advert for where you would go to find the album. So yeah, they very much pioneered
Mhm.
the pay up front before you can
Yeah.
pledge and all these things. It was just pay up front for an album that you hadn't heard. And they were one of the first ones to kind of do special editions and various things that you could order before that would never be available after. So yeah, very much pioneers, really through necessity because they couldn't get a decent deal and they'd moved from label to label to label. But what it's done is it's created a fan base that is absolutely dedicated to them
Oh, yeah.
in a way that most bands would kill for.
Yeah, they put on a weekend. You know, they have a weekend convention. People come from all over the world.
They do three. They do the UK one. They tend to do one in Montreal, and they do one
Yeah.
in
Holland.
Holland. Yep.
I
So
know
they
I know
can do-
guys who've gone to Montreal and you know.
Yeah.
So they do three every second year. It's fascinating.
Brave is a great record. It's a great choice. I really haven't listened to it in a long time. Falling Off the Moon is one of my favorite
Yeah.
American songs.
This is a sad album. I listen to that album, man. I want to
Beautiful.
slip my
So
throat,
beautiful.
man.
We've been over this. Miserable music makes me happy. Happy music makes me miserable.
Nothing wrong with it, right? Yep. Yep. All right, Anthony, put on a happy face. What's your number 2?
Put on a happy.
1977. My favorite Pink Floyd record, Animals, Dogs, probably my all-time favorite song, Sheep, Pigs, 3 different ones. Rick Wright's all over that. The part 1 and part 2 of Pigs on the Wing. Just a perfect record. Dogs to me is just the ultimate tune. Gilmore's tone on that is just absolutely gorgeous. So Pink Floyd, Animals, 1977.
Excellent.
Superb.
Is this gonna be the year we get to hear that remix that they've been talking about?
That's
Who
the
knows?
first.
Don't know.
Hmm.
I think it sounds great as it is, but well, whatever.
I'm not gonna buy
If
it.
they
Again.
do release it, I'll listen to it. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm buying it again. Fuck those.
I mean, that's the thing. How many times are we gonna keep buying these albums? It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm done buying them. I bought the vinyl, I bought the CD, and I'm finished.
There you go. All right, Chuck, number 2.
All right, my number 2 is for my favorite jazz fusion band, Black Market, Weather Report,
Ah, yeah.
1976. You know, the first introduction on 2 songs, Cannonball and Barnaby Coast of Jaco Pastorius. You know, you can't go wrong with Alfonso Johnson, you know, on Harandu. You know, that's another killer track. The title track, Black Market, Gibraltar, Elegant People. You know, these guys can do no wrong in my book, man. You know, I love Wayne Shorter. You know, Wayne Shorter to me is God, man. You know, then you have Joseph Zawinul. You know, these guys right here, man. This is their 6th album. Their 6th album, studio album. And this is my favorite album by them. Weather Report, Black Market, 1976.
Stone Cold classic.
Number 2.
Oh yeah.
I like the pre-Jocko.
Is Chester Thompson on that one?
Yes, he is. Mhm. But the thing is that he doesn't play on most of the tracks. You know, because if you heard the story about this, you know, he wasn't too crazy about Jaco. You know.
Oh,
and,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You know, they didn't really get along because Jaco was too headstrong. And Alfonso, by this time, he was ready to leave the band. I think he was going to go play with Carlos Santana, either Carlos Santana or Billy Cobham. No, he went to go play with Billy Cobham. And once he left, you know, Chester was like, I'm out, man. You know, so he wanted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Chester got a pretty good gig afterwards, anyway. So
Yeah.
Oh yes, Mhm. Yes he did. Mhm.
To me, when Jocko joined the band, they got too commercial.
Mm.
I like the earlier albums, Sweet
Yeah,
Nighter,
the early stuff is a little more avant-garde and
Sting the Body Electric. Those are the albums for me.
Live in Tokyo. Mhm.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
Weather Report.
Love
I
that
love
album. Mhm.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
good stuff.
All right, Lewis, number 2.
All right. The remainder of this was just fucking torture. Like I don't. It's so hard to pick, right? In particular, you know, I knew that this band had to be there because they are fundamental for me. But picking a favorite album was so hard because, you know. But I guess for this exercise, I have to go just because it has a little bit of newness to it.
I think your hot pockets are done.
No. I think
It's that
people
sexy
are
shirt.
always messaging me, even though I turned the fucking thing off. This is a Steven Wilson remix of this record, which is my favorite one, I think, currently, anyway. And is Jethro Tull, A Passion Play.
Oh,
Nice choice.
People
Yes.
always flag on this
thank you,
record.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
And they always say all kinds of shit, but honestly, some of the best music they ever wrote is here.
Yep.
Without
My
a
number
doubt.
2. Mhm.
And
Love it.
I just love it. Plus the remix also reveals some stuff that was not clear before that made it even better. So Passion Play.
Love it. Mhm. Mhm.
Great.
And the lyrics are so good. It's
Mhm.
like the whole Dante Inferno meets Ian Anderson's sense of humor. And you know, by the way, he can say whatever he wants, but in reality, this is as prog as it gets.
Yep. Mhm.
And he can hide, he can run from it, it's all bullshit. This is 100% prog.
Yep.
And he shouldn't, and good for him because he did it well. He did it better than most. So awesome.
Love it. Mhm.
This is 110% prog.
Sorry, I'm having a little fun over here. I'm getting into the whole
Still a
ding.
good album.
Yeah, it's a great choice. I like that album a lot. I know it got shit on quite a bit by the press.
Love it.
when came out, but it's just as adventurous and fun. I think as thick as a brick.
I think more so.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the Chateau Disaster tapes are amazing.
They are amazing.
They are.
Oh man, that disc one is just
Yep. Cool. All right, John.
For number 2, it's going to be Rush Moving Pictures from 1981, and I know it was talked about last week. So, and I can't add too much to this at all. But I think they really do a great job of, combining classic rock with prog rock, and here they have some really, they kind of got popular on the radio, so they have that commercial appeal. I think more than that's kind of what brought them into the fold a big time in a big way in this album. So, and then we talked about last week, I know those kind of like deep tracks on side 2, which might have been some of us might have passed them by at first. Some latched on them right away, but for me, I can't actually remember, but they're great songs. So it's going to be Rush Moving Pictures, 1981.
Yeah, classic.
the last epic.
Yeah. Louis, didn't you tell us a story like months ago on another show about how when you were living in Mexico, you had that on a tape and side 2 was actually on side 1, and you wound up listening to that half more than the others, right? Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just kept listening to it over and over and over and over.
Yeah, which was the opposite of what the rest of us were doing, because
Mhm.
Right.
side 1 was all, the side 1 stuff. Yeah.
Great album.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. All right, Rick.
Well, I'm in the same neighborhood. We're going with the same band, but I'm doing something my buddy Pete did for us already. Even though it's not my favorite album from Rush, but it's my favorite progressive rock album they ever did. And I have to go with Hemisphere. That is, to me, they're going for the throat. They went for, they got burnt out from it as we learn more about this album. They actually did it so hard that Geddy had a hard time reaching that pitch because it was so high. But it would really, magnificent. I think it's great. And now, Moving Pictures, Permanent Wave, they're part of me. I mean, Moving Pictures will get my vote as my favorite Rush album. But you said I can bring 10 of my favorite progressive rock album to the desert. Who said I wasn't bringing another 10 of classic rock where I can throw Rush in? Whatever. I would bring more than one album of Rush, no doubt. Canadian icon like Rush is. But this album is incredible. I love the way, but to me, it is I know it's a concept album to some extent, but it really is fantastic. The gatefold, the whole thing with the lyrics, following all that. I mean, that was really challenging. And as a singer, I would have a hard time doing all this stuff because there's so many words, so many things that he had to get in pronunciation and all the syllables that's in the song. It's amazing. So kudos to him just doing that. Then let's talk about his bass playing. Geddy's amazing. He's so incredible. I think this is his peak moment. That's when he started going into the keyboard. He had nothing else to prove on bass by this point. He did so much on those albums up to this point. And then, of course, Neil writing the great lyrics, playing fantastic drum, bringing all the bells and whistles, which he does, chimes and all. Started bringing a lot more toys to the stage at this point of the game. And then Alex is still playing with the Les Paul and other guitars, but he still has that big sound that I love about his guitar. And it's still evident all the way through it. And then we're going to talk about, everybody else's favorite, the trees and so many things to be said about all this stuff. I love all of it. And even though Moving Pictures is the one I play to because I'm also usually got company and they're gonna like the accessible music. But if I'm going for prog with Rush, this is it. Hemisphere. It's like you got to make an appointment and listen to the whole thing, start to finish. So number 2 for me.
Yeah,
Nice.
hard to deny Hemisphere.
Love that album.
Yeah.
Hey, is that the same Naked Guy on Going for the One?
Could be.
I
Well, now that you pointed
Fantastic.
out that we've just earned our R rating for this particular episode, thanks to the naked derriere
I
behind.
don't think so, Anthony. A little different.
But look like the Wish You Were Here guy was invited to come and
Actually, the hair's kind of the same.
Yeah, it might.
wait, they're bumming you out. There you go. I'll cover it.
Use the bum.
Over here. There we go.
that is just sad.
Pete's never going to ask me how to go ever again.
Well, they always
Oh,
said there
man.
was too many asses on this show.
Just added 2 more, that's all.
Yes, right.
Oh, man.
All right, where are we? Back to Ken, number 2.
All right, number 2. This band, like Genesis, this band hit my top 10 twice. Yes, Close to the Edge. Perhaps a very conventional pick. And George, this was the first, if I believe this was the first album with the, the iconic Yes logo, and the artwork magic is on the inside.
That's right.
Although it is kind of an interesting choice for the cover. So it was the band's last album with Bruford, the second one with Wakeman. It's just 3 tracks, and to me, it's basically a perfect album. Wakeman is experimenting more with synthesizers. He's expanding his palette. Lots of Mellotron on the album. John Anderson totally went batshit crazy with the lyrics, where the sound of the words meant more than the words themselves, and somehow it works. I mean, who the fuck knows what total mass retain is?
The patient.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't even tear apart the lyrics because you can't understand them, but the sounds themselves, they work. So the title piece, it's really, you kind of digest it in sections. But somehow it was cobbled together in a way that somehow the whole thing flows. And it's just one of those albums where every time you listen to it, you pick up something a little bit different. Even today, I think Eddie Offer did a great job with the original mix, but I really like what Steven Wilson did with his remix. Some of the guitar and keyboard parts that were buried in the original seemed a little bit more prominent. And it's, this is just one of those albums that's in my DNA. I probably never have to hear it again. On that desert island, I don't need electricity because I know the album backwards and forwards.
Good point. Yeah.
Not to make this show any longer, but are you guys surprised? Like Steven Wilson's first remix was what Lizard, right?
Did a great job of it.
It might have been. Yeah.
But are you surprised that his remixes took off like they did?
Silence.
Or
He does
is
a
that a
good job,
stupid
though.
question?
No, he does a good job. I mean, some people take exception at them, so it is a personal taste thing.
Yeah, some people hate them. And some people hate them just because they were remixed.
Yeah.
Some people, they're committed to the original.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like it's carved in stone. You can't fuck with it.
It's
But I think production wise, I think he does a better job when he's doing other people's music than his own. So
I like his production on his own. I like the PT records.
I love his production. What I would say though is that the remixes that he gets to do, these are not artists that let people muck about with what they do unless they trust them. So he's clearly doing something right in the eyes of those people. So that's kind of good enough for me. Having said that, he hasn't got them all right.
What I
He
find
had to earn some
interesting,
credibility there. You have to have some credibility to touch some people's stuff like that.
Yeah.
well, the credibility is the catalog that he's building. You listen to what he did with the King Crimson catalog, and it's like, sure, you could do Close to the Edge. What I find interesting is that if I don't really know the process, But if I'm not mistaken, I think he mixes and everything in the box. It's all done in the computer. So I think all the multi-tracks are transferred digitally, and it's all mixed in a computer. It's not like he's doing it through a big SSL or Neve. I could be wrong about that, but that's my understanding. And he gets great sound. He doesn't believe in mastering. However he finishes his mix, that's the way he wants it to be presented. So I guess he's had bad experience with mastering engineers, and so I think he did a great job with the Yes catalog. I love what he did with King Crimson, particularly Lizard. I think Lizard's fantastic. I mean, he brought things out that never heard before. And
His Tull remixes are very good. I mean, Aqualung.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Spectacular.
I mean, the thing is, for me, it's like I'm not such a Tull fan, so I couldn't, I'm content to just listen to the original albums. I actually, that's not true. I bought for myself the vinyl remix of Aqualung, and that's exceptionally good.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Bill Hart, who has a website, The Vinyl Press. You guys should check it out. And Bill's constantly comparing albums, and he compared all the different versions of Aqualung. And he told me he thought that the Stephen Wilson remix was the best one. I bought it. I think it's great because Aqualung's not a particularly great sounding album.
Correct.
It's a horrible sounding album.
But the Stephen Wilson version, it's more than listenable.
Yep. Cool.
Does anybody know what he's got coming up? Is he working on anything?
Nah, he hasn't really said much.
He's working on relearning his old songs.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
disappointing.
Is he doing civilian?
Oh, why would you want to do that?
No,
And I think
Civilian's
is he
awesome.
doing civilian or?
I don't know.
Don't know.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, George.
My number 2 is the only album I was into in grade school. Probably can't say that very much, but same as Rick, Rush Hemispheres. Not much I can add to it, really. The way Rick talked about it, like a lot of these albums, it's perfect the way it lays out. The epic is incredible. It came at a time actually when I was on a thing. I had written a paper about the Greek mythology stuff, so it was weird that came about right around then. But great instrumental, a neck snapper in her circumstances, and then the allegory of the trees. Just perfect album. Never get sick of it.
Love it.
Great choice. All right, Chad's number 2 from 1972 is Yes, Close to the Edge. He says, epic title track, final Yes album with Bill Bruford. Siberian Khatru is my favorite Yes song. And You and I, a gorgeous masterpiece, is number 2. And my number 2 is Genesis Foxtrot. I mean, this has been my favorite Genesis album for decades and decades. And no matter how many times I listen to this album, I don't get tired of it. Watcher of the Sky is one of the greatest opening tracks of any album ever. That haunting mellotron, the riff that comes after it. I mean, Timetable, Get 'Em Out by Friday, big and raucous fun. Can Utility and the Coastliners, another great song. There's a lot of great mellotron on this album, a lot of great Hammond. Hackett's guitar is great on here. Horizons, all him, and then, I mean, Supper's Ready. The precursor to Grendel. I mean, I just adore this album. One of my favorite Peter Gabriel sung albums of all time. And just an amazing band and an amazing time in their career. That's my number 2.
I love that
Very
song,
nice.
but the only thing I hate is that it's like the Free Bird of Prague.
True, but it's still great.
It's undeniable. But aren't you tired of the guys who always ask for that song?
Oh gosh.
All the
You just wanna
time.
Oh, but there's a reason they asked for it, right?
I understand, but Free Bird is a great song also.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
here's your Free Bird. The next one will cost you. Kind of my view on that. So Sorry, I'm just a little salty. I just played a show yesterday, Sunday. I'm out of practice with the audience and the usual shenanigans that go on. So my bad.
I'm sure it went great.
It was good fun. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Eric, number one, as we finish out this
My
exercise.
number one had to be for my favorite band. And when I got introduced to this band, this is my gateway album, I guess, to them. So I had no preconceived notion of what had come before. At the time that I was introduced to them, they were popular in the trio incarnation. It's Genesis, Trick of the Tail. And I've never had a bias on Phil Collins, at least on these records. To think that this was done after Gabriel left, to me, is just amazing. I know the band usually wrote the music prior to that anyway, but this is a great record. It also showed that Banks and Hackett can work together with Entangled, even though they're two separate songs, kind of. It's just, that's gorgeous. Dance on a Volcano is a kicker of an intro. Los Endos, Madman Moon is beautiful. Everything on this record. And
Ripples.
I know Trick of the Tail, some people, I still think that's a great song.
Love it.
What about Swank? That's a great.
Swamp,
I
yes.
like Swank as well. So
People
my
always
favorite
use
band
Swank.
and my favorite album, Trick of the Tail.
Awesome.
Great choice.
All right, Stephen, number one.
Well, the reason that Marillion weren't my number one is because I had to go and give kudos to where it came from. I got into prog through the 80s neo-prog scene that came out in the UK. A lot of bands that I love all came from the same source, really. And the 90s scene that I still listen to a lot, I would say more than anything else, all of this came from Genesis. So that to me is the source point. That's where I go. And it's been very interesting listening to Eric there and Ken earlier, because there are 3 albums that I thought, well, it's going to be one of those. Now, I really like Trick of the Tail. I think it's a fantastic album. Really outstandingly good. My favourite is The Lamb. That's where I always think, well, that's where I'll go. But realistically, if you said to me I could only take one Genesis album, I'm going to want to hear Dancing with the Moonlit Night. I'm going to want to hear I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe. I'm going to want to hear Firth the Fifth. And I'm going to want to hear The Cinema Show. So I'm going to want to be Selling England by the Pound from 1973. And then realistically, when the make weights are the Battle of Epping Forest, More Fool Me, you know, After the Ordeal and Isle of Plenty, well, I don't really need much more. It's not actually my favourite Genesis album, and this is arguably the first out of all of the 10 that I've chosen where I haven't just gone, well, love the band, that's my favourite. But this is the one, I suppose, that to me personally encapsulates more what Genesis are about, even though I will probably tell you that Ken's choice, The Lamb, is my favourite album for all the reasons that he said. But what I'm going to take with me is Selling England by the Pound.
Mhm.
Well said.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Anthony, number one.
1976. I'm piggybacking off my brother from near Albany, New York. Trick of the Tail, Numero Uno, Entangled, Dance on a Volcano. Robbery, Assault and Battery is another one. I love the keyboard tones on that. Just phenomenal, perfect. I have some boots from this tour that are just amazing. To go in a time machine and see Bill Bruford play with them live would have been just surreal. So Trick of the Tail, 1976.
Cool. A lot of
Good
love for
choice.
Trick of the Tail.
It was in my
Yuck.
top 5.
All right. Well, I was about to make it 3 in a row, but this album means more to me than any single album in my entire collection. This album, if I could just take one specific album with me anywhere and not have to listen to anything else, this is the album that I would take. Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. My all-time favorite album. what's that? Sometimes it's what's it? Well, like I said, this is still my favorite album by them, but this is my most important album. This is the album that I'll take what's it on my Desert Island disc right here. This one, The Lamb Lies Down, is now my number one.
Cool. All right.
That was also the best show that I ever saw a musical box do.
Oh.
They recreated that.
Great.
It was a really powerful live show, if they did it correctly or not, I don't know, but it was really,
Did you see them with Martin Levac
yes.
and David Myers? Yeah, because I saw them with them too, and they were outstanding.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Lewis, number one.
All right. Well, the torture does indeed have to come to an end, having to pick one over the other, which is really painful. And this one, again, it's a hard to really say why this is my number one, but I find that again, I never get tired of it, and I still find that the message and the lyrics are somehow, as if by magic, still relevant to today, even though they were not obviously intended that way. If you listen to a lyric like, "What do you get for pretending the danger is not real?" This could just very well be about global warming, about so much of the apathy that we have today, right? And it just hangs perfectly. I think it's a record that has the right amount of tension, like the right amount of fighting, but the right amount of camaraderie to really make the soup. And this is a record that I will never get tired of listening to. It's not my favorite by them. It's not my most personal one, but that would have to be The Wall for personal reasons. But for me, Pink Floyd Animals would be my number one. I just and it has the right length, right? It's not a CD length. So it's the perfect length to make it to say what you want to say. Don't overstay your welcome, and leave all the filler at home. Just play all the good shit and get out. And this
There's
is
none.
So
Timeless and perfect.
Nice. All right, cool.
Right on.
John, you're number one.
My number one, and this was hard for me. I was going to do The Wall. Actually, I was going to do The Wall number 6. But for me, it's Dark Side of the Moon from '73. And
Today's his anniversary.
yeah, timeless classic for me. Horrible for lots of people, sure. But I mean, everything works for me in this album. Like, I mean, musically, it's fantastic for me. Wright has a huge impact on this album.
yes.
Maybe not so much on The Wall. We all know all the kind of the backstory there. But I think on this album, he you know, he's awesome. Great Gig in the Sky is a great song. And you have, I mean, everything worked. You got Time with those clocks. I mean, you have the ominous On the Run, really dark, and I love the synth on that one. Alan Parsons did a great job engineering the album. It sounds great, kind of like Crime of the Century for me as far as sound quality goes. And it's so long ago now. It's amazing how good that album sounds.
Yeah,
I know.
Any Color You Like, I love. Us and Them, beautiful sax, Perry. Gilmore sounds great on that, as vocally as well. Same with Money, and then it ends with Eclipse and Brain Damage, and it kind of brings that lunacy and insanity that began with Speak to Me. Just a little blurb of a lyric, but it just, everything works, and it kind of wraps it up. Big crescendo at the end. Anyway, Dark Side of the Moon for me.
Nice.
My favorite band as well, so I think I have to put it in.
excellent.
I mean,
Yeah, Rick,
that album,
number one, Rick.
sonically, that album's still going on
Yeah.
as one of the greatest albums. Us and Them, I love that sax solo. That's the
beautiful
only time I ever remember a horn just made the hair stand up on my neck the first time I heard it. I mean, many have since Steely Dan, many other.
And
great
Wright
ones.
wrote that, didn't he? Yeah, didn't Wright Us and Them? I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great, great album. My number one has to be, and it's a perfect album, and it's been mentioned already. There's no point in repeating what everybody have already said, but it's got to be Yes, Close to the Edge for me. It is the perfect listening prog record, start to finish. That's my number one, and just like Shad said, You and I, beautiful. All those ebbs and flows in this first track is so incredible, and just all that stuff they have to remember, to do that live. It's just incredible, and I've seen them do that live. I mean, Yes and Rush is probably the most bands I've seen in concert than anybody. Is them two bands when it comes to progressive rock. Dream Theater probably next in Kansas, but anyway, Close to the Edge for me, perfect record, and just to think that some of this was just writing in the studio, and just trying to add on as they go. It just sounds like a perfect piece, like a score that you wouldn't know that this was all improvisation to get this here. I mean, you do because of the length maybe, but to me it all fit well. Everything's in the right order, the way they present itself. And I can say that about every track. I think it's well structured as a band, and it's definitely one of my favorite. And I have to take that to the desert island. And I'm probably like Ken. I wouldn't probably have to really play it, just holding it, and I start remembering the music, like he said. But either way, it won't hurt me to play it for my millionth time because I love it that much. I have not grown tired of it, and I think maybe because the radio hasn't killed it, it's on my terms, and I play it when I see it. But anyway, love it.
As much shit as I talk about John Anderson, and I do a lot of that. I have to say that record is to be so good that not even he can ruin it. And point of fact, what he does is so good himself. That was a perfect blend of, just to give the man credit, he wrote these incredible little ditties, these very beautiful songs and melodies, and then he just let the guys arrange music around that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfection. It really is. It's flawless.
Would you recommend taking a Yes album to prison?
Well, not if you want to retain certain structural integrity. But I'm not judging.
Just checking.
Louis, don't drop the soap. That's all.
No, I'm not even going to shower. This is my technique.
Feel bad for not having one in my
Hey, man,
top 10. 'Cause I
why
love
change
the
what's
band.
working for you?
All right, so we got a lot of love for Close to the Edge. Ken, you're number one.
Well, I don't think this one's going to be a surprise. I think a lot of people are going to see where this one's going for me. This is my favorite prog album, period. Emerson, Lake and Palmer,
There you go.
Brain Salad Surgery. ELP is my favorite band, as I've said. And when I started listening to prog rock, I think I've told the story. My first exposure to progressive rock was seeing Rick Wakeman do the battle on the Mike Douglas TV show. And I had never, there's this guy standing there with his cape, and, he's got all these synthesizers, and it was like something from like, another planet. And I was mentioning it to some of my friends, and one of my friends said, if you like that band, you should check out this band, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And she lent me the first album, and I didn't really like it all that much because whereas Journey to the Center of the Earth was this very symphonic album with an orchestra, choirs, all these synthesizers. First ELP album was very dark. It was very focused on Hammond organ, piano. There was some synthesizer, of course, on Lucky Man, and stuff, but it was almost like listening to classical music, and I didn't quite get it. And then little by little, I started getting into them through Tarkus. And then finally, I heard Brain Salad Surgery, and it just totally fucked me up.
Yes.
This was a band that really sounded like nobody else, and that was because of Keith Emerson. I mean, the band was like the logical extension of the Nice. This was a guy that I think people to this day will acknowledge was the best rock keyboard player that ever lived.
Yep.
In my opinion, he is. I mean, and this was a technology first band with technology first music.
Yeah.
these are guys pushing the envelope of sound. Keep in context, this is 1973, and nobody sounded like Emerson, Lake and Palmer did when they came out with Brain Salad Surgery. You know, they opened up the album with Jerusalem. Emerson's playing a prototype of the Polymoog called the Moog's Apollo. Toccata was an arrangement, the fourth movement of Alberto Ginastera's first piano concerto. It had Carl Palmer on drum synthesizers. Who the fuck was playing drum synthesizers in 1973? No, it didn't exist.
No.
So, you know, yeah, it's Still You Turn Me On. It was just a very, very good Greg Lake ballad. You know, Benny the Bouncer was kind of like that was the throwaway track. And then you get Carnival 9, the 3 sections of Carnival 9, which for me, you know, was kind of emblematic of prog rock. And for me, you know, maybe, you know, Supper's Ready is certainly up there, but Carnival 9 is maybe the greatest prog rock piece of music as a whole. You have, you know, First Impression. It's sort of this conceptual piece. And then, you know, you get the Second Impression, which is kind of like a jazz piano-based drums trio. And then Emerson is programming his synthesizers to sound like steel drums at one point. And then you get the Third Impression, which is basically the theme of it is around, you know, the battle of artificial and natural intelligence. You know, it's just, and somehow these 3 guys, they just work together. As we talked about, not sure they ever really liked each other, but somehow musically these guys clicked. And for Brain Salad Surgery, there was nothing like it. And yeah, it was a revolutionary album. And then, you know, and then you tie it all together with this incredible artwork, H.R. Giger. Nothing even looked like this album. There was nothing out there that really looked like this album. I mean, Giger had done some album covers prior to that, but and for me, that inspired my interest in surrealist art, which today, I have a very, my wife and I, we have a significant art collection, and we collect surrealist art. And Giger is my favorite artist. I was lucky enough to meet him in 1992 when I was in Switzerland. And yeah, for me, it's the alpha and the omega. So your mileage may vary.
Nice.
And one other thing I say, you know, most people don't know, my system is down, and we had some problems in my listening room, and I can't access it now. It's under reconstruction. And I've been listening to Brain Salad Surgery on my computer for the past week. And I got to tell you, man, I listen to that album and time stands still. I just listen to it straight through. Just still, even on a computer.
It's an excellent sounding album.
That's why it's number one.
Excellent recorded.
I gotta say, Chuck, I'm gonna sort of contradict you a little bit. It's a different sounding album. They didn't use Eddie Offord. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason was. Eddie Offord wasn't on that album, because Eddie's production, you know, through Trilogy was exceptional, right? They recorded it at 3 of the best studios in England. I know Advision was one. I don't remember the other 2. And Lake, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even remember who mixed the album. But there's a certain coldness, I find, to the production, but somehow it fits with the album, with the music, with the themes, you know, the sort of sci-fi themes that are going on with Carnival 9. It's the total package for me, everything, every aspect. And I know there's a lot of ELP haters out there, but damn, this is my number one, my all-time number one.
But you know the story behind that cover, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of sexual innuendos on that album.
Oh, yeah. Hey, there's a penis on the cover.
Yes, it is.
There it is.
Yep.
It's it. In fact, later pressings they changed they airbrushed to Giger. Giger was upset about it. They airbrushed out the dick.
Yep.
So, you know, Anthony, don't get too excited. but
You know, what's funny, Ken, is when I saw ELP Legacy in November, and of all things, Carl Palmer did Benny the Bouncer.
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny. You know, it is the throwaway song. You know why that song's a little annoying? Because Lake is doing like that Cockney accent at one point, and it's kind of like, it's kind of lame. But
I never understood why they did those joke songs. I just, to me, I just don't get it. But I will say this, having had to have learned the whole album to play it,
yeah,
and I think that you can really do no better service to yourself, in fact, than to actually study all three parts of Carnival 9. If you're at all interested in music, even if you don't play an instrument, just study it. Let your brain really do the math on those chord changes and those melodies and all the stuff that's going on in there. It's really remarkable.
he seemed to me. I'm not a musician, but it seems to me that Emerson's compositions were just on a different level.
They're completely idiosyncratic. You can instantly tell it's him, first of all, which I think is great. And secondly, they are really, it's a sci-fi theme, and this is really sci-fi music for 1973. This is really advanced.
It was nothing else like it. And Emerson is a player. He's playing synthesizers, Hammond organ, piano. I mean, it's all these overdubs, and somehow live, they were able to do it. Actually, one of the things about the album was that they said that they recorded the album more or less live in the studio because Trilogy had so many overdubs, they couldn't play a lot of it live, but they wanted to be able to go out and play the brain salad surgery material. So it was recorded live. So when you listen to the record and you keep that in mind, it's kind of amazing what they're doing.
It's actually true that when they play, if you hear the live versions of those songs, they're in a different key.
Yeah,
because it's really difficult to sing in those keys.
Mm-hmm.
And for Greg Lake, that really didn't suit his voice.
Yeah.
And Andre Schulmanley told me this story because he was a keyboard tech for Keith Emerson. That he went out when he started dating that Japanese girl. He did karaoke, and because she wanted him to be out of his comfort zone, and they had "Welcome Back, My Friends." And he thought, well, I'll just sing this and nobody will know. And then suddenly, as he's coming up to singing the lines, all the complaints he got from Greg Lake came back to haunt him. Oh, this is really fast. Oh yeah, this is really not an easy pitch to hit. And he was sort of telling himself, well, I'm murdering the song, but nobody here knows me, so it's fine. And as he's walking back to the table, these two Japanese guys in suits, that was horrible. And the other guy goes, he knows, he wrote it. Better know. So much for incognito. But yeah, it's really hard to play those songs and play them well. It really is.
That album just still gives me douche chills. I don't know.
Yeah.
Every time I hear it.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, George, you're number one.
A couple guys had it on part one. Romantic Warrior from Return to Forever. At a lake party in the early 80s. Jam box going, everybody boozing. Tape runs out. Who's got a tape? This guy Colin gives the tape. As soon as he puts it in, I'm just like blown away. I was like just a Rush nerd at the time and just took it way beyond what I was hearing with Rush. I mean, eventually some chicks are like, what is this? No, quiet.
Shut up and sit back.
This is gonna play, Went to the record store that week and I realized I never asked them what the album is called. So I accidentally get No Mystery. A good album, but it doesn't, for back-to-back albums, they don't sound alike. The production's way skronkier. There's a lot of funk. It's just two different animals. So I finally get the right album and just wore out through the years.
Yep.
The mid-90s, I actually learned the whole album. It took like most of a summer and learned the whole album just because all the drum parts sang to me, kind of like Neil Peart's always sang to me. And ever since the time where I would start making lists, everybody on the channel says, this has moved up my list. This has been number one for me ever since I ever made a list, and it's never changed. So I say Romantic Warrior.
It's a timeless album, man. You know, it really is a timeless album. They couldn't follow that up. You know, they couldn't keep that band together. It was just
Chick broke it up on purpose. He's like, he comes in and says, I'm taking the band down. They were like, what are you talking about? But he's not.
To me, that's the benchmark for fusion albums. That's the album that all fusion albums are
I
judging.
love it, man.
Yep. Agreed.
You know, in fact, when we always talk about fusion, we're talking about Brand X or something like that. We always reference Return to Forever.
We do.
Yeah.
RTF and Mahavishnu for me are the
Yeah.
two.
Those are the two bands that we always, when we're talking about fusion and we're talking about different bands, there's always that influence. There's always, yeah, they were the shit.
Okay.
All right. So number one for Chad. And by the way, Chad has been messaging me from the game, and he says hello to everybody and hope we're having a really good time. So his number one is from 1981, Rush, Exit Stage Left.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He says, great collection of classic period Rush. Needed more than just moving pictures. Great performances, especially La Villa Strangiato.
My first Rush album.
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, you know, you could arguably any of those Rush live albums, right? Because they all represent a certain period in the history of the band. So, yeah, it's a good choice. Much like George was just saying, my number one here probably has been my number one favorite prog album for years and years and years and years and years. And it's been mentioned a number of times already today or last week. And, you know, it's got to be Close to the Edge by Yes. 3 songs, it's all it needs. Perfection. Title track is epic, amazing. It's all, who cares? It's all pieced together from all these little bits. It sounds amazing. And You and I is just gorgeous. Arguably some of Steve Howe's best guitar work on that track. And personally, my favorite Yes song of all time is Siberian Khatru, which closes out the album. I think that's just an amazing, amazing song. And it often gets overshadowed by the other two, but I think it's the best piece of work on here. So I love the way the album sounds. And this was the classic lineup, the last gasp before, you know, Mr. Bruford says, I'm kind of bored in this band. I'm going to go off to King Crimson. And you kind of wonder, it's like, well, what's boring about this, right? Meanwhile, he went off to King Crimson, and yeah, that really, you know, that was obviously a bit of schooling for him. But yeah, but great album, one of the greatest prog albums of all time, if not the. That is my number one.
I thought his argument was that he didn't think that they could top it.
Yeah.
No, I think it was because he got tired of waiting for Chris Squire.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's what he always talks
Never
about.
underestimate band dynamics. Absolutely. But the thing he says in his book is that he didn't think he could top it. And King Crimson was offering him the ability to go more in a more jazzy vein, which was always kind of in his heart.
He never played it live, right?
No. He had left by then.
Meanwhile, if he would have just stuck around, he would have been able to participate in Relayer, right?
Can you imagine Bill Bruford on Relayer?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but Alan White kicks ass on Relay.
Oh, he does.
He really
Oh, yeah.
does,
Nothing
man.
against Alan White.
Yeah.
But
you know,
that
Alan
album was
White,
tailor-made for Bruford. Yeah.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying Alan White tears it up.
sure,
I
but
think
it
he's
would have been even
underrated.
better.
Mhm.
It would have been.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. It obviously wasn't about money because Yes were selling out like arenas and King Crimson were selling out like theaters.
Yes, so he wanted the challenge of the more difficult music.
He wanted to play with Robert.
Yeah.
Yep.
He had that integrity.
He wanted to play with the scary man.
That he did. I was just listening again today to the King Crimson live in Central Park live album from
1974.
74. July 1st, 1974.
Man, that is so good.
Killer.
So good. Then you read the liner notes from Fripp that he wrote in his diary, I guess the later on that night. And he, was like, I don't think it could ever get any better than what we just played. And it's just like, and you listen to it and you're like, wow, this is like scary good, in front of however many thousands and thousands of people in New York Central Park. I mean, that must have been pretty crazy, right? So, yep. Anyway, there you have it, everybody. The finale of our Desert Island albums, our top 10 prog albums of all time. All sorts of good stuff being mentioned. We had a lot of stuff that was repeated, but I had a feeling that was going to happen, and some stuff that was not. So, but I think most of the mandatory classics were mentioned at least once. And yeah, this was a hard exercise to do. But now that we got that out of the way, we can maybe, sleep a little easier in the coming weeks. So
We're not doing 15 through 11 next week.
no, we're not.
I already started. I started working on it.
I know, because you got your list already, Ken, right?
Yeah, I was working on
it.
And some people have already chosen 13 albums.
But what's interesting, actually, is some of the names that some of the albums that we didn't mention. So,
Yeah.
we think about all there was so many great ones. That's why I was saying there's 100 albums in my top 10. Right?
Yeah.
So,
I
Did
didn't pick
we
any
have
Yes,
any
but I love
Vandergraaf
Yes.
at all?
no.
Chuck had-
Yes.
Chuck had-
Yep, that's
Did,
right.
did In the Court of the Crimson King get mentioned?
No.
Yep, John had that. I
Last
think.
Oh, yeah, John had him.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yep. Okay.
All right.
And George had it too.
There wasn't much Italian stuff. Nobody mentioned Museo Rosenbach. Nobody mentioned.
No.
I don't think
Yeah, I was
PFM.
thinking about
The
that.
Orm.
Oh,
The Orm.
PFM did, yeah,
Thankfully,
PFM.
nobody mentioned any
Aria.
Model Jazz either.
A lot of great.
Well, Anthony, when we do when Pete sets up the modal jazz show, I'm in. So
No.
Did anybody say Images and Words?
No.
no, everybody
think
says
so.
scenes from a memory, right? That came up a few times.
Mhm.
And it's sort of interesting. It's a lot of great music out there. It's kind of hard to pigeonhole 10.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's
I know.
Did anybody mention this?
You did.
Yeah. Oh man.
We knew that was in the bank.
Got 2 Eddie plugs in the show today, right?
That's right.
remember the terms of your court order, Anthony.
50 yards, right? It's just 50 yards.
Keep
The
it
restraining order.
Yeah.
chill.
Oh boy. All right, everybody, we're going to sign off for the evening. So thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. Check us out on Facebook, check us out on Twitter, but more importantly, we're here on YouTube all
All the
together.
damn time.
All the damn time.
All the damn time.
That's right. For Eric Porter, Stephen Reed, Anthony Ferraro, Chuck Alvarez, Louis Nasser, John Newdorf, Rick Labonte, Ken Golden, and George Lemie. I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you next Tuesday on In the Prog Seat. Stay tuned tomorrow. New album reviews. Thursday, we've got the Monsters Den. Friday morning, the Funhouse with Martin Popoff. Saturday is the UK Connection. Sunday is album homework assignment. Mr. Porter and Scott Berry going at it on Sunday. And then we start the week all over again with the Hudson Valley Squares on Monday. So thanks for watching, everybody. Be safe. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Take
Bye-bye,
care.
everyone.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.